Hello my profane friends, this is my last video on heraldry and Freemasonry. It goes hand in hand, and by the time I finished showing you this book, and if you've got the sense to watch all my videos, you'll understand more about symbolism and the Freemasons, okay, and how it's to do with the royals, and they look after their best interests in every town and city. So what we have here, look, can you see the two squares and obviously the two circles? Can you see it? God and the for God and the empire, yeah, the Masonic empire. Can you see the sun hieroglyph behind the circle? Okay, here's the square, right? Here's the first square. Look, if I put the square on there, look, there's your first square. Okay, there's your first square, and your second square is here. Look, see, there's your other square. See, there's your other square. You're well on the square. Two squares with two circles, with the empire, the ruler, within the middle. And the book is called, believe it or not, a wee little drum roll. You know, the Masonics all have the drum rolls, right? And it's signed all over the bloody place by the worshipful Grand Masters and all of that. It's more than likely worth a few squid. But anyway, the chapel of the most excellent order of the British Empire, yeah, okay. Do you get that? The chapel of the most excellent order of the British Empire. This is how their egos expands and know no bounds within all towns and cities, yeah? These are the people controlling everything. Look, okay. Universities Press, Oxford, 1973. Now we get the acknowledgements here, yeah? Right. Many people have contributed to this book, and it is a pleasure to record their names with gratitude. Her Majesty the Queen, for her gracious permission to have a drawing made of her, right, GBE, the mantle. Thanks to Brian Thomas, OBE. Do you see what I mean? These are all, you know, sirs, lords, dukes and earls, you know, Major General, Sir Cyril, Major General, yeah? The Major General Sir Cyril H. Colquhoun, Knights, bloody hell, I can't remember his name, that's all OBEs, blah blah blah, Sir Ivan de la Belle, whatever that is, and then all, like I said, it just goes Lords, Dukes and Earls, okay? Like I said, I don't know everything, but I can see it in print. I'm not dumb enough to know that the Lords, Dukes and Earls are the Freemasons. This is what they're talking about, okay? Look, this is the officers of the order, the army, yeah, their gang, yeah. Then the history of the order, then the insignias, the history of the chapel, the crypt of St. Paul's, and then the chapel, okay. Again, we get some roll call and honours. Here we go, look, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Knight Garter, Knights Templar, Order of the Mitre, is it, I think? And whatever else, Grand Master of the most excellent order of the British Empire. See, so he's the Grand Master of the British Empire. So everything Masonic arrives from Great Britain anyway, across the world, yeah. So here it go. Look, nearly 50 years have passed since the Order of the British Empire was founded by His late Majesty King George V, and nearly a decade since it was decided to make St. Paul's Cathedral. And obviously, you know, the square and compass is on the roof of St. Paul's of the order, and to construct the chapel of the order in the crypt. The appeal, which was then issued, met with a generous response. The result has been distinguished additions to the fabric and furnishings of the cathedral. Now, I'm only laughing because if you ever read Masonic scripts and, you know, their writings, it's the same old scripts, you know, like you know, generous response, distinguished additions, you know, all these types of things they add into their writings. But anyway, the little book is description and the record of the order and its new chapel. It is also a tribute to the members and the grateful acknowledgement to the subscribers. Grand Master Philip, April 1967. Okay, and here it is here, look. And you can, again, look, you see the heraldry in the background, look. That's your heraldian flags of the kings, the queens, the lords, the dukes. And they're going to show you this in a minute in the book, what these people are and the symbolism that it all entails, yeah? Because they break it down for us. We haven't got to do the work, thank God. Right, the officer of the most excellent order of the British Empire. Now, straight at the top, look, is the sovereign of the order, is Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The Grand Master, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. Obviously, there's Dukes of Edinburgh, there's the Duke of, Glasgow, there's the Dukes of everything. You see what I mean? It's all the same fucking thing. The Right Reverend, and like I said, all the vicars and bishops, yeah, are well on it, yeah. They're all druids as well, yeah. They're all travelling gypsies, if you know all them funny handshakes what were helped on the battlefield, but that's in my research and in more videos. But anyway, that's another story. Then you've got the King of Arms. So when they rise up and bash you peasants, it's these people they're protecting, okay? King of Arms, they're more than likely the police force now. Well, not that much, but you know what I mean, my profane friends. Look, you've got a prelate from Roman times, the Right Reverend and Bishop of London, okay? Wait a minute. The Registrar, the Secretary of the Central Chancery of the Order of Knighthoods, yeah, Orders of Knighthood. Okay, see, it's all Lords, Dukes and Earls. All goes back to heraldry, yeah. The Secretary, the head of the Home of the Civil Service. So anyone in civil service or a civil uniform that wears a suit, yeah, is just hiding a Masonic apron. And then you've got the Dean, the Very Reverend, the Dean of St. Paul's, and then you've got the Gentleman Usher of the Purple Rod, yeah. You'll see the Purple Rod in the heraldry soon, yeah. But this is what they do, look. And then here, look, Royal Dames and of the Grand Cross, yeah, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, okay, so they're all in on it, believe. Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Gloucestershire, Her Royal Highness, Prince Alice, Countess of Athlone, you see what I mean? So it ain't just Lords, Dukes and Earls, yeah, like I said, the Eastern Stars, the Rainbow Girls, they're all groomed from a very young age and know all of this ranking system. And just with a twiddle of the fingers or a wink of an eye, they rank their system and who has to obey those orders within any Masonic lodge, okay? And then you've got the most excellent order of the British Empire was instituted by His Majesty King George V on the 4th of June 1917, yeah? Grand Masters, His Royal Highness Edward, Prince of Wales, Her Majesty Queen Mary, and His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. So again, as I've said, the kings, the queens, the lords, the dukes and the earls, they all run each town and city, their families, and they're the ones running the businesses and all the infrastructures of your town, yeah? And anyone becoming a threat to that, they're going to gang stalk, harass, or have an accidental murder, and one of their worshipful knighthoods who's a doctor or a coroner is going to put whatever death they deem fit to say that person died. Do you see what I mean? Now, I ain't going to go right through the history of the order because I will photograph the book as I normally do, yeah, and put it up on my forum or on my Facebook, yeah, that at the most crucial period of the Great War, it's always the Great War, you know what I mean? These people are fighting all the time. Of 1914 to 1918, King George V decided to create a new order of chivalry, yeah, because that's what it's all about. It's all a Game of Thrones, yeah, and that certain families are vying for power or to take it off other families, and this is when these people go to war. So the honours on the generous scale could be given to those deserving of their country, yeah. At that time there was no suitable decoration which could be given to the less senior ranks, yeah, in the armed services, yeah, because like I said, they're the army of the land, army of the air, army of the water, land, air, water, their law. Yeah, and if you don't obey it, they send in their land, air, and water armies to bash you, the peasants that are on the land, the air, or in the water. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, to the lesser ranks of the armed for the demonstration work at headquarters, in camps, hospitals, or war installations, nor was there any appropriate award in recognition of the outstanding work, both military and civilian, performed by women, which was arduous and deserving of an acknowledgement as any done by men, nor indeed was there a way of rewarding the work of those who were outside the civil service and were consequently ineligible for the imperial service order. So basically their minions could get a slap on the back but work against the profane, as long as we paid you enough. It was suggested that the orders of the Bath and of St. Michael and St. George should be enlarged by the additional of a fourth and fifth class, but this was not considered appropriate, nor was the award of any of these medals for gallantry. This whole character of the decorations involved would in either case have been altered. It was obviously to the king that the new honour should be instituted to provide a suitable award for people of all ranks in the community, and in this respect this new order was unlike the existing orders of chivalry, you see. And that's where it all comes down to. You've got these certain people, yeah, that are working within your towns and cities, that are getting these orders, yeah, that are getting these ranking systems, yeah, without you even know it, but they're getting them, and the honours that are bestowed on them are being bestowed on them within a Masonic lodge. Okay, let's not get that wrong, you know. And here it is, by the grace of God, and there's the certificate ordaining that. Again, there's the heraldy, yeah, of what they all bow down to. You know, and then you've got these, look, there on considerable discussions about the name be given to the new order. Many titles proposed were the Order of St. George and Mary, the Patriarchate Server Order. Do you know what I mean? It's all orders, always orders. You know, what, like the lower class, you know, like I'm trying to think of some good example, but I can't off the top of my head. You know, knighthoods, and should rank immediately after knight's bachelor, and later proposal was that knighthood in these classes should be optional, you see. And obviously honours and knighthood and title of dames for ladies, you see. And then you got the first intended that a commander of the order of the British Empire should rank senior to the companions of all other orders, you see. But very strong objections were raised to this, and the idea was abandoned. See, so this is what they do all the time. They're always trying to outrank each other, all serving each other titles that bestow egos and fluctuates their importance within the Masonic lodge and within the Masonic, you know, their Masonic cube community that thrives like parasites within the profane peasants. You see what I mean? And this is what it is. Anyway, you got the Royal Victorian Orient, all this crap they bestow on each other, yeah, just to bolster their own egos up. And so long as they work against the profane, because that's what they go, he's profane, and they go, well, we'll screw him over them because he's profane, poor, and a peasant, yeah. We'll not allow him to have a business, because everyone can't have a business. Look at a taxi firm, right? Say you've got two taxi firms that are major players in your town. You can't have another taxi firm. Do you know what I mean? That's viable. You know, because if you have put another 20 cars on the road and you start making good business, that two taxi firms ain't going to like you very much. Do you know what I mean? They're going to start working and destroying your business, whether they start busting your tyres, and they're going to use the criminal empire, yeah, what they run anyway with their drugs, to fuck up your business. Do you know what I mean? And that's what they do all the time, over and over and over and over again. Do any research. You know, I'm now got to do, you know, research into something. They're now taking all these buses. I'll do a video on it, you know, as usual. But they're putting all the bus stops, yeah, where it used to pull into like a you know, the buses used to pull in halfway into the sort of curb now, but they've filled that in now. The buses are all the way into the road. Do you know what I mean? Didn't need to be done. It's been, you know, like that for 40 odd years, if not more, you know, but it wastes the money rather than put solar panels on people's roofs and, you know, help with other things that people need, like building homes and houses and buying land for them. They just waste the money in other directions and other projects, so long as they don't improve anything where the profane, you know, and they run the councils. It's all through the council, but it's another video I've got going anyway. So there you go, and it's all about the medals, what they bestow on each other. And as you can see, look, the fleur de pis 4 times, and again it's the square, look, with the circle in the middle. See, that's the square, look, you see the square within the, see, and then this makes the square. These 4 points here is a square, so it's 2 squares with a circle in them, 2 circles within the middle, the point within the square, you see, and that's what that is all the time. Yeah, bestowing it. And again, look, you can see that here, look, this is all the old patterns and the new patterns, but what you'll notice is civil, military, you see, okay, for gallantry. You will gang stalk who we tell you to, and you will get a gallantry cross for being a bum stretching gang stalker, you know what I mean? But as we move on through, you might hopefully understand. I'll just the insignias, yeah, again, the insignias, what they wear, you know, all this is all still, right, you know, look, the Grand Cross, the width of the riband is 4 inches. The Millie Knights Grand Cross, in the centre of the riband is a pearl grey stripe, you see. And this is how it's all, as I said, you know, all these different ranks, they learn, yeah, who to salute and who not to salute, who's in their gang. Do you see what I mean? You've got the collar, the star and the badge. And there it is. And you can see quite clearly the 2 squares with the 2 circles with the point in the middle. You see what I mean? Obviously there's pyramids, so I won't go into the pyramids and all the rest of it, but that's another story. You know, that's the horseshoe, and you have the horseshoe this way because it collects the luck. You see, that's what that is, the horseshoe, it collects luck, but obviously it goes round the neck. That's another story. Again, you got the 4 circle, the 2 squares, the circles in the middle, but again it's the fleur de pis 4 times, look, 3 3 3, which again makes 4 square, okay, which we know represents 6 6 6. And again, here we are, you'll see the Queen and everyone wearing this crap, and that's what it's all about in the Masonic Lodge. And I'm not even, you know, look, for the knights and dames, they're commanders, you see, they're commanders. Like I said, this gang has a sovereign's mantle, look, you see, their gang knows no bounds, their chivalry knows no bounds. The history of the chapel, well, you can read up on that yourself. But look, the prelate, look, look, this is the gang, yeah. Look, the Bishop of London, the Right Reverend and Right Honourable Arthur Foley, Wilmington Ingram, and then you get all that fucking behind his name. You know what I mean? King of Arms, look, Admiral Sir Herbert Heath. Yeah, none of these are fit for purpose. Registrar, Secretary of the Grand Chancery of the Orders of the Knights, Knighthood, Major Henry. See, the Secretary is Permanent Secretary to the Treasurer, Sir Warren Fisher. Gentleman Usher to the Purple Rod, Sir Frederick Canyon, GBE, KCB. But that's what you're dealing with, Lords, Dukes and Earls, and these people are right within your town. Look, Brigadier Ivan, see, Brigadier, these are all the people that will rise up, yeah, and put you under. When you start really saying no, and you put these people under threat, they ain't going to give 2 monkeys about railroading over you, mobilising their criminal gangs and everything they need to do to squash what they call us traitors or whatever you want to call us. I don't know, you know what I mean? Even though they're the ones that are the rotten to the core, do you know what I mean? And then you've got the crypts here, and I can, you know, like I said, I'm going to print this book up so you can watch it. So I'm mainly concentrating on, you know, who is responsible for all our, you know, problems within every town and city. And it's these people, do you know what I mean? Sir Edwin Lawrence prepared a drawing in 1980 for the chapel. See, no one else gets a look in. There's no profane people being mentioned in this, and nothing in your town or cities is ever done by the profane. It's always done by the Freemasons that are lords, dukes, earls and barons. Okay, now here we go. Look, you've got King George, Queen Mary, they're all founders of the order, right? And here they are, look, you see, and he's got his minions about, look, his little people looking after his best interest, you know, the families of the heraldry and the crests, the people that look after him. Then from there it goes Her Majesty the Queen, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, the royal founders of the chapel, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and so on and so forth. You see the ball, look, with the cross in she's holding, look, you see, don't know if you can see that. Got this dude here, look, see, holding his little the scroll, See, it all means and represents things, you know. Look, he's standing above the town, look, above the castle, look, you see. Well, she is, should I say. He more than likely is a he anyway. You never know with these guys, I'm telling you now, baby. And then you've got the screens, and that's giving you what the screens are, which are these. Okay, I'll let you read them. Australasia, the first panel incorporates a gold prospector equipment, a kangaroo, a moray, a sheep, apples, wattles, whatever wattles is, I don't know, and a tree fern. Right, the second panel is for Americas, incorporating Monty, totem pole, a grain elevator, timber, sugarcane, and pineapples. You see, because these are their continents, you know. Australia and America is Masonic continents. There's no different, you know, and they work hand in hand. And you think, oh, they're against each other. They are not. They're all in it together, and that includes Japan and their royal families. You know what I mean? Let's have a look. So then you've got Europe and the Mediterranean. Then you've got the north and southern hemispheres. Yeah, see, it all goes hand in hand. There's no different. You know, you got the plough there, look. See the plough? Again, look, it's the square. See, within the circle. See, it's always the same, look. The square and the circle, you see? Squares and circles make it. I don't know who that is, or we'll have a look. Wait a minute. The northern and the southern hemisphere. Whether maybe that's the northern hemisphere. Yeah, that is, and that's the southern hemisphere, isn't it? The stars, obviously. And you've got a few ships there, look, and the houses. I don't know what it represents, or I don't even profess to know. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got Asia, look, yeah, because they're all in it together. You know, Asia. Your soccer line, an elephant, a pagoda, a tiger, a cotton, tea, coffee, and rice plants, yeah. And then Vorekterwacken, a prospector's tool, native weapons, flame lilies, cocoa, and ostrich feathers are the emblems for Africa on the 6th panel. You see, so all these countries you believe are against each other, they're not. They're all friends. They're all royals. They're all kings. They're all gods. They're all lords, dukes, and earls. Yeah, and all they do is make sure you, the profane, don't ever get any power. And they live rich and wealthy lives, exploring the planet and getting wherever they need to be. And here we go, look, on the south side of the painting represents the various forms of service to the community. You see, services to the community for which awards are given by the Queen, yeah? The armed forces, because they own the armed forces. There's justice, because they own the fucking crown courts and magistrates. Administration, so when you ring up about fines or anything like that, you've got on, you know, again, I've proved that in videos where I've rang up and then I've done the code words and there's a Knights Templar on the fucking end of the phone. Do you know what I mean? Doing the administrative work for the Masonic Lodge, you know. And then there's sports, look, you see. You know what I mean? All the sports, and I'm on about Roman arenas right up to football, you know, soccer, golf, whatever it may be, and they're screwing you over on the bets, especially when you know who runs like the boxing and the horse racing and everything like that. But that's another story, you know, and basketball, all of that, it's all run by fixtures. And they're being fixed by gangsters. Anyway, science and medicine. So when you go to see your doctor, you know what I mean, you've got a Freemason there who can screw up your medication for the Grand Master if you're a targeted individual. Communications, again, yeah, they're the ones that are communicating with each other all the time to keep the profane confused, never allowing the profane to get together as one solid people, because then they're really in trouble. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, fine arts and education, you know, the skill crafts, that would be like metallurgy, woodwork, woodcraft, things like that. Do you know what I mean? All them sort of special skills. Then you got commerce, because they're your you know, your what are they called? Whitakers, no, not Whitakers, what are they bloody called? Not merchants, yeah, they're your merchants anyway. Let's say you've got a fishing port, yeah, they'll own all the boats, do you see what I mean? And they'll be the tradesmen that sell all the fish and all the different things. The peasants will just be the ones that are catching the fish, doing all the heavy lifting and all the work for the Freemasons that control that fishing, you know, that fishing fleet, you know what I mean? Or like the oil rigs, do you know, see what I mean? You know, you've got roustabouts, yeah, what are peasants, what are rented apprentices, and as you go up the ranks, you've got the OEM, which is, you know, works, and he'll come from America more than likely anyway, the OEM, and he'll be the, you know, he'll be the, you know, the Grand Master. Do you know what I mean? But he'll work for these people, you know. That's how it works. And then you've got the transport. They own all the trains. Don't believe they don't, because they fucking do. And they'll give you, again, it's the same as, oh, buy the, you know, go with British Rail or go with this company and that company. But they're all run by the same people. But they keep you picking and choosing. You know, it's like cartons of orange juice or makes of cans of Coke, you know, Pepsi, you know, Coca-Cola, what's the best? Let's argue about it. You know what I mean? Oh, what football team's the best? You know, just see what I mean? They keep us arguing like that all the time. And then obviously we come to the church, you know, our church is best, our God is the greatest, you know, and it doesn't matter who you speak to, whether it's Muslim, Tahiti, Voodoo, or, you know, someone in Africa, or, you know, wherever, you know, Mormon, Christian, whatever that is, everyone's God is the best, you know what I mean? Because that keeps people fighting amongst themselves, do you know what I mean? And that's what it's all about. And then you've got agriculture, and like I said, when you guys, they decide to go to war with you, the first thing they do is cause a famine, because they own all the lorries, that ship, and they go, oh, there's an embargo, you know, that ship was now coming with food supplies that got bombed. It didn't get bombed, it just got sailed into another port. All the food was unloaded. The fucking rich elite takes it, yeah, because they're allowed to, because they, you know, obviously they're working in cahoots with the enemy on both sides, yeah, and then they'll bomb it outside the harbour, and you think, fuck, they blew it up. Do you know what I mean? But it's a show. Do you know what I mean? And that's what they do through all wars. But they'll do you with the famine first, because then they know you're fighting. You know what I mean, baby? But here we go, look, the altar is built of Portland stone with the carved and gilded enrichments, yeah, and was made to Lord Motterton's Motterstone's design, yeah. Lord again, you see the lords, the dukes, the earl, yeah, yeah, with the embroidered by the Royal School of Needlework. You see, again, that Royal School of Needlework will be have a it's a guild, yeah, a special guild, what we see in the part where they, you know, they're special in doing needlework, and that's all they ever do. Do you know what I mean? But that's what it's all about. And then you've got the Knights of the Grand Cross of the Order. Do you know what I mean? But it's all, as I've said, is like lords, dukes, and earls. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter where you are. It's all to do with lords, dukes, and earls and their crests. Okay. There it is again. Look, you see it? The square within the circle. It's different this time. You know what I mean? But it's still the same. It's a hieroglyph for the all-seeing eye. You see? The all-seeing eye, the hieroglyph. See? Crazy, baby. The way they get away with it, I don't know. They're peasants. The furniture, everything to do is designed by these lords, dukes and earls. It's the same thing over and over again. You know, or do you think the Profane have had anything to do with any of these buildings? You know what I mean? No, it's all lords, dukes and earls. The font, the lectern, the floor and the carpet. You know what I mean? Paul Paget, CVO, look, you see? Where's the profane people? Where are the profane? Yeah? By the Wessex weavers at Wilton near Salisbury, you see? And there'll be Freemasons, you see? There'll be a special lodge for them, just for weavers, you know, special ones for each and every guild you can think of. You know what I mean? Look, the organ was presented to the cathedral by the order. The case in which it is enclosed was designed by Lord Motterstone. And here it is, look. There's the organ. Again, look, there's your pyramid. Do you see what I mean? Of Rome, because we're talking Rome. Jachin and Boaz, you see? Crazy, these people. Crazy. And then you've got altar linen and cushions. The altar plate. I won't get too much into that, look. But again, you can see it there. The fleur de pis. For us, the... it's the triple tall cross. One of them, of course. Oh, that ain't a square and compass in there, is it? Doesn't look like it. Ooh, maybe that's supposed to be. I don't know. Can you see it? Is that supposed to be a square and compass? Who knows? Again, look. Can you see it? Look. Can you see that? Look. Can you see that there, baby? You know what I mean? Is that the square and the compass? Look. You know what I mean? Obviously, you got the again, you got the two squares with the circle in the middle. But is that the square and compass there? Is that what that represents, or is it the all-seeing eye, the hieroglyph of the all-seeing eye? What do I know, my profane friends? But you certainly got your circles, and you got your checkered board floor, look, black and white tile floor, which runs through here, I presume, but what do I know? I'm profane. The Cossacks, or Hassocks, the Hassocks, these are called Hassocks, I never knew that. How wonderful. And these were under the scheme originally devised by Dowager lady, see, ladies, you know what I mean, the ladies, these would be your female Freemasons, you know what I mean, but there you go. There were 203 hassocks carried to the star and 197 the cross of the order for the use in the channel. 4 small hassocks and 2 large hassocks were completed. So that just gives you an idea of their numbers, do you know what I mean? And there you go. Here you go, my profane friends, and here they are. Again, you can see the 2 squares with the circle for God and the Empire. I don't know who these 2 people are, but there you go. And again, as I've said, these are 2 squares. Look, that makes a square, yeah, when you follow it. Then from these points make the other square. So basically, that there is that there, do you know what I mean? But they've done it in fleur de pis, and that's how the symbol is, and obviously the crown the top, look, and that's New Zealand, look, you know, and this is Swaziland. So, you know, again, the heraldry, it doesn't matter what country you come from, they are controlling it, yeah, regardless of what it is. And you can do the research, like I said, just do research into royal families in any town or city across the world on any continent, and you'll see that Lady Morph, look, Lady Morph. But again, you'll see, you know, they run it, they control it, the whole towns, the whole cities, and that's why we've lived in such shit for the last fucking 1,000 years. Now here's the banners, look, hanging the Albert. On the south side, I've shown H-Men, the Queen Sovereign of the Order, which is this one here, look, okay, that's the Queen Sovereign. Below left, HMS Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. So that's her heraldry, yeah, and who looks after her, okay. And they'll have different families below them that looks after each one, because they'll call them to arms. And the Duchess of Gloucestershire, there's her heraldry, and that's what it's all to do with, heraldry, yeah. As I've told you many times, look, and these are the different families that are beholden to them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 families there, or 4 possibly. To this one, it's 1, 2, possibly 3 families, 4 families. To that, you know, that's how it works. And then you got the Duke of Edinburgh, the Grand Master. Here he is, look, King of the Castle, black and white, blue and white. You know what I mean? The 3 lions or tigers or whatever they are, with the Masonic 9 hearts, look, you see. And then below, His Royal Highness the Prince Royal, and then below right, His Royal Highness Princess Marina, Duchess of Kent. So there's your final 2, you see, and that's where the heraldry go. And like each family has these other families that are beholden to them, that looks after them in every town and city, okay. And you can go to any church or chapel, I don't care where it is across the world, yeah. And then you've got the royal windows, look, the crown of the Queen, sovereign order of the below, all of that. And this is what you got, look. The maple leaf of Canada, the wattle of Australia, the new fern of New Zealand, the lotus of India, the potea of South Africa, the flame lily of Rhodesia. So you tell me somewhere where the friggin' Freemasons ain't running or controlling this world. You know what I mean? Again, it's the hieroglyph of the all-seeing eye. You've got your circle. Oh, you go into it and all, can't we? Do you know what I mean? But here it is, look, these are the staffs. See the cross staffs, look. More on them later, but you can see the Queen's crest, and then you got the Knight's hat there, look. See, but I didn't understand it all. I wish I did. Or I'd be grasping these people right up, you know what I mean? I've took no oaths. I can say what I want, you know what I mean? Again, look, the window in the centre of the east of the chapel, the stars, badges and medals of the order. So these are the stars and the badges of the order, okay. You got the Knight's Grand Cross, surrounded by the gilt collar or chain, and then it goes on and on. Star of Knights Commander, Star of Knights Commander, oh great. The badge of the commanders, you know what I mean, officers, Guilt badge, OBE, do you see what I mean? And then you've got badge of members, the MBE, do you see what I mean? Empire, British Empire medal, you know what I mean? All these medals are here, look. And these are the families it all bestows on. You will bow down to our orders and you will look after us, and by doing that and keeping the profane underfoot, we will bestow all these medals on you, titles and anything else you want during your lifetime. And here we go, look, the crown and rod of the King of Arms, yeah, the purple rod of the gentleman's usher, which is here, look, see it, look, that's the purple rod there, okay. The book of the registrar, yeah, the cross and quills of the secretary, the badge of the prelate, the badge of the prelate emeritus, badge of the dean, and the badge of the sub-dean. See, so that's what all these little things are. Look, you see the crossed anchors. Look, the two crossed anchors, because they are the pirates of the sea. You know what I mean? Don't you? You know, when all these pirates were robbing each in different families, this is where all the Knights Templar wealth come from. You see it there? See the crossed. No, that's either cross swords or cross crosses with a D on top. I don't know, but there you go. Like I said, you've got these miters, look, on each side. You've got the animals, look, what protect them, whatever that may be. Like I said, I don't know everything. I wish I did. There's your cross quills, look, yeah, for the god and the empire. See the cross quills? See, this is what it's all about. Heraldy, yeah, and these people learn it from a very young age, you know, of what this heraldry means to them as the rank or their entitlement to what is it? I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came unto me and freed me, I reckon. But yeah, I forgot what I was bloody saying now. I'll get put off. But yeah, so that's basically it. You know what I mean? Like I said about prisons, you know, when they get sent to prison, yeah, what they did back in the day, they released the Freemason and sent them on boats to Australia to conquer different places, you know, as explorers. You know, you go here, conquer this, and you live wealthy. No one know, because no one had, like, you know, instant photographic recognition or none of that. So anyone could be shipped anywhere, start a new life, and no one would know nothing. The second window continued this theme. I was a hungered and you gave me meat. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in, because I give a Masonic handshake. Do you see what I mean? This is what it's all about. They look after each other. And they have these signs on different places, yeah, where they can get hand relief if they need it, food, water and shelter, or arms if needed, or other men to do their battles with them. And they'll stand toe to toe with each other and all. The parable of the Good Samaritan, look, you see? Where is he? There's the Good Samaritan, look. Notice he's drugged him and then bummed him. And now he's giving him relief. But there you go. This is what these people are like. Believe that, baby. Believe that. Then you go like that. Lost sheep from the gospel according to St. Luke, chapter, verse, whatever. There we go. He's got the sheep, look, right there. All this different heraldry of what the kings, the queens, the lords, the dukes of Freemasonry control. And I haven't seen anything in any of this. Civil and military insignia of the knights and the dames' grand cross. The theme of services here is illustrated by the reference to the Gospel of St. John, chapter 13, verse 5. Christ washed the feet of his disciples at the Last Supper. This is what this is about here. There you go, he's washing the feet, look, see? Remember, they go back to all of these times and they believe it all as well. Oh, baby. And again, look, you know, the side of the arms of the Queen Mary, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, the former and present Grand Master. See, look, in the northeast shows Christ healing the sick. On either side are the arms of, oh, the arms, yeah, there you go. That's the arms. See? That's the arms and the heraldry of the Duke and the Queen Mary. You see? Obviously, former and present Grand Masters. Yeah? And that's what that is there, look. See? And Christ is healing the man. But that's what it's all about, you see. They think, you know, they're gods. You know, they're raised up by the lion's grip each and every time there's a ritual, and they're paid money for it. Dominus Theolonemia, whatever that means. Again, 3 crowns. Printed in the British Empire in the University Press, Oxford, by Vivian Riddles, printer in the university. And that is it, my profane friends. If my videos haven't shown you that the royals, the lords, the dukes and earls in every town and city across the planet, yeah, because that's what we're dealing with, these families and this royal heraldry, yeah, this heraldry here, this is what you're dealing with. All these certain families, what belong to these families, yeah, that have been sent down through the centuries and decades, you know, because it goes to, like, you know, their little peasants and their minions, and they're working against every profane person to never ever give you a business, never to get wealthy, never to get anything in your lives, because these are the only people that are allowed to get up somewhere. You know, the people in Hollywood, the people on the TV, and all they keep doing is giving you same show, the same shit over and over again, every century, every decade, playing theatre works to you, the profane. You know what I mean? And that's all they ever do. Ever do. You know what I mean? Look at this. And you've got to know who all these badges are. If you ain't even getting into the lodge when they talk about murder, you know, or fucking drug dealing. Do you know what I mean? It's all been, you know, the people that look after these people are Gypsy G travellers, that are Knights Templars, that had funny handshakes on the battlefields, that helped them dominate other families that went against them. Do you see what I mean? And we kept fighting for these sort of people because that was the right thing to do and what we were groomed to do. You know, become a knight, become this, become that. Anyway, my profane friends, have a great day.